Hi, Wancho.
Hello, Emily. How are you?
Good. Hi, Kevin. Um,
Hey,
Wancho, thank you. It is so wonderful to hear you and to see you. And thank you for starting us off tonight with our Amplify 2020 celebration and a perfect vibe of warmth and calm, and for bringing us together. Thank you, Wancho.
yes, thank you.
Thank you
And
so much, guys.
we're going to see you again in just a little while, so please don't go too far. Thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Emily Joy Weiner. I am the co-founder and artistic director of Houses on the Moon Theater Company.
And I'm Kevin Connor. I have the pleasure of being the managing director of Houses on the Moon. We want to take a moment to give everyone a big warm welcome to our Houses on the Moon family, our artists, our staff, board members, community partners, and to our supporters. And for those of you who are new to us, welcome. We are Houses on the Moon Theater Company. We exist to dispel ignorance and isolation by amplifying the unheard, underrepresented voice. Typically, in non-COVID times, we would be all together for Amplify, celebrating a great year of Houses on the Moon's work. But this year, we're coming at you live from our homes.
Woo! Um, I will say that as we've been thinking about, this annual event over the last few months, it became very clear that the honoree for tonight needed to be the story itself, and the focus of the event to be celebrating, looking back over the breadth of our work over the almost 20 years that we've existed now, and celebrating the story and the generous artists and community partners that have helped us bring them to life. I think that I can say that I'm not alone in finding it challenging, to say the least, these days, to straddle the line, keep the balance of being fully present in the times we're living in, while also staying positive, productive, and moving forward. I can tell you that looking back over the years of the people that we've worked with, the stories and experiences that we've shared has been incredibly comforting. And the support that we feel from all of you goes such a long way, not just in our fundraising efforts, but for our emotional health and lives. So thank you so very much.
Yes, thank you. Personally, I'm excited to say that just last week I celebrated 4 years with this incredible organization. And being a part of the company that Emily and Jeff built back in 2001 has been a really life-changing experience. And having the privilege of working with houses during this pandemic has really been the thing that has kept me going. So I'm so grateful for you, Emily, and Jeff, who you'll see a little bit later this evening. So now on to the evening. As Emily mentioned, tonight we'll be looking back at our almost 20 years of projects. So we'll be taking you on a little journey starting at the beginning, highlighting some of the projects that have gotten us to where we are now and to where we're planning on going next. Before we move on, tonight is a fundraiser, so if you feel so inclined, please feel free to donate by clicking the link below in the description box or by heading to housesonthemoon.org so we can share another 20 years of amplifying the unheard voice.
Also, just logistical stuff. The evening will, for those of you that don't know this, will run just under an hour. So just know that. Okay, and so thank you, Kevin. And now, since we're starting at the beginning tonight, people often say to me, Houses on the Moon, what is that? Where does that come from? So I want to take just a very brief moment to share the genesis of our name. In the very late 90s, Jeffrey Solomon and I were co-teaching, and we were saddened by the rampant homophobia in the schools. We set out to create a new piece of theater together, with the aim of making the school environment safe and inclusive for all students and educators. As part of our creative process, we interviewed a lesbian teenager in New Haven, Connecticut. Her name was Emily Corwin, actually. And as she had no gay adult role models. And so in talking to her, she spoke about the impossibility of envisioning her own future life as an adult. She said, it's like, imagine your future taking place on the moon. How can I picture what my house would look like on the moon? I've never been to the moon. Nobody's ever tried to build a house at such low gravity. How do I know? Whether to picture it on the surface or floating, trees and grass, or just rocks. Well, her words took root in our imagination. How could we create a metaphorical house on the moon? We dreamed of a safe place where new stories could be told and heard in previously uncharted or even hostile terrain. And so we began. That was 2001 when we began. And now, please welcome longtime Houses contributing artist, Carlo D'Amore.
Hi everybody, my name is Carlo D'Amore and I've been a member of Houses on the Moon Theater Company for about 20 years now. I've been in several of their productions, and I think the one I'd like to talk about is the first production that was created by the company, which was called Building Houses on the Moon. Emily Weiner and myself played a variety of roles. It was definitely a piece that spoke about LGBTQ issues in relationship to young people, which was pretty innovative at the time, 20 years ago, to directly talk about issues that young people are facing. And we played a variety of different roles and vignettes that addressed the issue. I know that as a member of the LGBTQ community myself, had I been in middle school or high school and had somebody come into my school and brought a show about issues that I was dealing in my own personal life that I was not comfortable talking about because I didn't know, I thought I was one in a million people, had a production like House on the Moon come to my school, I think it would have been a life changer. I think it would have given me a sense that I belonged in the world, that I am not one in a million, that there are others like me. It would have been refreshing to say the least, and I think hugely impactful. I've always been really proud to be a member of this company. I think the work is vital, especially in the world that we're living in today, where there's so much inequality and it's finally coming to the forefront. So your support will be greatly appreciated. Thanks so much for listening.
Thanks, Carlo. We toured our pilot project, our pilot play, Building Houses on the Moon, for several years. We toured high schools, universities, conferences, theaters, and we used it often as a training tool for teachers and educators to explore the voices and needs of LGBTQ plus individuals. In 2004, we set out on a new project, eventually called Tara's Crossing. And it was inspired by interviews, dozens of interviews with asylum seekers, and in particular, one individual's story named Vimala Prasad. And her story, which she was a transgender woman from Guyana, and the play, which became a play written by Jeffrey Solomon, explored her flight here from Guyana and her fleeing persecution in Guyana and looking for a better life here in the United States. The research morphed into this play by Jeff, and it premiered in 2005 at the Lower East Side Tenement Theater, no longer there, and went on to tour nationally to universities, theaters, and was often used as a training tool for law students. That became a large part of our touring life, actually, for several years after that. And now I would like to introduce longtime Houses artist G.H.A.R, who's a big part of Tara's Crossing and much more with us. And she's going to tell you a little bit more about it. Thanks.
Good afternoon. My name is G.H.A.R, and I worked on the Houses on the Moon production of Tara's Crossing. My character represented for Tara the one person who had her back no matter what, the one person who inspired her and encouraged her to be who she is. And so that, I believe, that role gave some strength to Tara and some commitment and the ability to keep going. The audience responses to this piece has always been one of, I think there's a bit of reconciliation. There is a bit of wow. There's definitely a wow factor. And the wow factor, I think, has more to do with oftentimes when an individual's life doesn't mirror what we think the norm is, we tend to ostracize them. And when we hear their story, we see their humanity. And so the audience tended by the end of the play to understand the humanity of Tara, to understand how Tara just wanted the same things that every other human being wants. And that is the ability to be true to oneself, to be one's essence and not be denied the opportunity to still have love and happiness and productivity and joy. And so I think that's the essence of what it means to do a play with Houses on the Moon, is to seek out those voices that somehow get lost. Right? They get lost because society tries to pigeonhole us all into this little box, like kind of like this, right? And we all can't fit there. And that's what makes Houses on the Moon so important, so necessary, because it reminds us that we are responsible for hearing all these voices, even if sometimes it may be hard, even if we may be ignorant to the journey of those voices, and even if we're not comfortable. And so thank you all very much for listening to me. And I hope to see you supporting Houses on the Moon for the next 20 years. Bye.
Our experience touring Tara's Crossing was profound. We learned a lot as people and as artists. And through partnering with organizations, starting with amazing places like American Friends Service Committee, Immigrant Rights Program, and many more, we found ourselves not quite ready to move on. We wanted to learn more about what was happening in our immigration system, in the courts that speak in our name, as citizens that we knew so little about. We found ourselves particularly affected by the stories of thousands of unaccompanied minors who made these harrowing journeys to the US on their own. And we set out on a new creative process and developed what came to be our play De Novo, which has had and still does have a large life. We've traveled all over the country with it, and as far as El Salvador with an all Spanish version. De Novo tells the true story of Edgar Chacoy, a Guatemalan teen who came here on his own at 14 in search of his mother and the need to escape the gang that was threatening his life. I would like to now, I have the honor of introducing Jain Dubin, our board chair. Some of you might know her. Jain has been the most incredibly devoted, passionate, committed supporter of this company for the past 10 years. And I'm quite sure that we wouldn't be where we are if it were not for Jain. It's also very likely that we would never have met Jain if it were not for our public telling of Edgar Chacoy's story.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jain Dubin, and I'm the proud and humble chair of the Board of Directors of Houses on the Moon. I'm so thrilled to be here tonight with all of you to celebrate the almost 20 years of consistent, challenging creativity of the amazing artists of this company. 10 years ago, my happy accident was going to a show. Oh my, remember those, on a Sunday afternoon, just filling some time before something else later that night. That show was De Novo, a direct and eye-opening view of the juvenile asylum process in this country. And that was over 10 years ago. I was blown away, not only by the piercing storytelling, but by the depth of the post-show conversation and the evidence that Houses was working closely with its community partners. I went up to Emily at the end, and by the way, everybody stayed for the talk back, and when does that happen? I gave her my card and said, let's talk, and talk we did. Honestly, they had me at hello. 10 years later, I am still hooked. And as I tell Emily and Jeff and Kevin often, when my heart is heavy, Houses fills my soul. And right now, it is more impactful than ever as we all navigate this new world together. This company, this family is the rock for many artists, writers, producers, and audiences. Thank you for being here. And if you are so inclined, thank you in advance for your support.
I took him home, and after a few days, we got him food and we got him some clothes because, you know, he didn't have anything. He would sit here and play with his siblings. One day, I made him tamales.
Más tan deliciosos, no como los de allá.
He liked tamales. But his favorite food was hamburgers. I used to tell him, you're going to turn into a hamburger. He was happy. Only there wasn't much affection. Edgar had some resentment towards me.
Mamá, ya, por favor,
¿Qué más necesitas?
tranquila.
Tienes comida, no tienes que lavar ropa, yo te la lavo. You have everything you need here. Food, shoes, clothing, a house. I don't know what you're looking for.
¡Oh, Edgar! ¡Oh, little silent! Ahorita abajo. Son mis amigos, my friend.
Edgar, no!
Si me vas a pegar, pégame. Ven, dale, hit me.
Sign here. Okay, I said, so I signed. At the time I was ill, I had cancer, ovarian, I had a 5-day treatment with chemotherapy, and I begged Edgar not to go back out into the street. Entiéndeme. Óigame, por favor, entiéndeme. No vuelva a salir.
Sí, mamá, te entiendo. Me voy a quedar en la casa. I know.
They had put an ankle bracelet on him, and after 5 days, I called the house, and they told me Edgar had taken it off and gone back out into the street. A few days after that, they called me and told me that they picked him up and took him to juvie. He no longer cared about me. He spent more time in jail than he did with me. It was around the time of the processions in Guatemala. Edgar said to Papa, Abuelo, I'm going to the procession. Be careful, said Papa. I don't know why, but I felt something. I called my sister Hortensia in Guatemala and I said, Hortensia, ¿dónde está Edgar? And she said, pues, no sé, Papa said he went out and he hasn't come home. And I said, pues ve y búscalo, yo sé que ha pasado algo, I know something has happened to him. And she said, bueno, pues ¿dónde? And I said, pues donde sea, si yo estuviera ahí, lo fuera a buscar en todas partes. If I were there, I would look for him everywhere. I had identified Edgar by a margarita tattoo that he had on his arm. I don't remember if it was here or here. Edgar was so proud of his margarita tattoo. When he showed it to me, he told me he did it because he did it to make me mad. He was always saying that I wasn't his mother. But I think to him it represented that if he had that tattoo, then nobody could deny me as his mother. And he always said all of this laughing. He was always laughing.
Hi, my name is Zulema Guevara. I work with Houses on the Moon on a piece called De Novo about a young man from Guatemala who, because of his circumstances in life, finds himself forced to join a gang. In order to escape that gang, he flees to the United States and finds more of the same situation here. And I get to play his mother, which is been, for me, one of the most gratifying roles I've ever had to play as an actress. We performed this piece in libraries, in law schools, in large theaters, and in small community centers. We have performed for very different types of audiences, and the most important part of the piece for me, the one I get the most gratification from, are actually the talkbacks, because not only does the piece present so many issues that right now are prescient, right now are important. It deals with immigration, it deals with gang violence, it deals with families and what families are forced to contend with when finances are tight, when there are no social nets or structures in order to hold them. And that is at the core of what Houses does. It makes sure that it holds a mirror to society, and that we have the tools with which to then walk out of that theater and try to affect the change that we so desperately want to see while we're watching these plays unfold. It has been most gratifying for me to see these audiences not only engage in the talkbacks after these plays, but actually to walk out and say, I'm going to do something, and know that they will. Whether it's starting an organization that helps foster parents learn how to deal with immigrant children who have their own special set of needs, or whether it's someone that gets up and says, I'm going to silently sit in an immigration court just to bear witness. It is the role that theater is supposed to play in society. Not just to hold up the mirror, but to light a fire under your butt and make sure that you act on what you're feeling. We are here today to ask not for funds. I call it support. Now more than ever, it's important for us to understand that society is being reshaped, and we are reshaping it. It is up to us to reshape it. And Houses is more equipped than any organization I know to put forward ideas, put forward pieces that really, really challenge us to think, to act, to move. And that's what we need right now. That's what I'm hoping that we can accomplish with our fundraiser, with, I know that Houses accomplishes it with the pieces that they choose to present. And I hope that you can join us on this ride and see what else we're able to discover through our new projects. Thank you.
Hi, folks. I'm Jeffrey Solomon, and I co-founded Houses on the Moon Theater Company with Emily almost 20 years ago. And it's my great pleasure to present the Mauricio Leyton Award this year. Mauricio was a beloved friend and artist in the Houses on the Moon family, and he passed away unexpectedly on December 1st, 2013, due to an aortic aneurysm. Because of Mauricio's enormous heart and spirit in partnership with his loved ones, we created the Leyton Award in his name. And this is an award and monetary gift that we give annually to an individual or an organization that champions the unheard voice through community service. This is the 7th year we're presenting this award. And while each year has had great meaning, this year has special resonance for me personally. In 2005, I had the great privilege to perform my solo play Mother-Son in India in a production co-sponsored by a group called Gay Bombay, one of India's oldest gay grassroots and support organizations. I traveled there on a shoestring, so one of the co-founders of Gay Bombay, Sachin, Jain, stepped forward to be my sound man, which was no easy feat. The play was inspired by my coming out journey with my mom and featured well over 133 sound cues, recreating 4 years of our fraught and tender phone calls and answering machine messages. Sachin brought his own mother to see this play, which was so culturally specific. but I was thrilled to discover the overwhelming love and worry of my Jewish mother easily had its mirror in Mumbai's sari-clad mums. Sachin and I became dear friends. When I was in Mumbai, he translated an entire Bollywood movie for me in the cinema in real time, whispering the English in my ear. He's also fluent in Spanish, French, German, Hindi, Urdu, Marathi, and Gujarati. Now, I tell you this not to impress you, though it is very impressive, but to share with you that Sachin, like our dear Mauricio, has a blinding love for humanity and people, and he is a true citizen of the world. Sachin, like our dear Mauricio, also believes in the power of art. He writes and edits in English and Hindi for India's largest LGBT publication, and inspired by our meeting 15 years ago, started his own theater company in Mumbai called Anakant Productions, the first in the nation devote itself exclusively to queer stories and themes. I was thrilled that Houses on the Moon gave me the opportunity to partner with Sachin creatively last year on the Q Story Stream, a cross-cultural storytelling project between the LGBT communities of Los Angeles and Mumbai, facilitated by video chat platforms, teaching me in advance of this pandemic that magical things can, in fact, happen on Zoom. It wasn't an easy choice to pick the recipient for the Leyton Award this year. There were so many stellar nominees, but Sachin convinced us of the rightness of the committee's decision this year when he asked Emily and I, please tell me about Mauricio. I can't help feeling that they are brothers across time and continents. Like Mauricio, Sachin is called to help and to hold and to heal. This award is to support Sachin's work with the Gay Housing Assistance Resource called G.H.A.R, a life-saving housing resource he founded in India dedicated to helping LGBT people find safe housing. This group was mentioned in the Indian Supreme Court judgment of 2018 as proof that queer Indians face discrimination in housing, which impeded their fundamental rights. I'm proud to introduce you here to Sachin Jain, talking more about his work with G.H.A.R.
I remember when I started to rent for the first time in the year 2000. I had moved to a city near Mumbai called Thane, and a landlord was showing me the flat. We entered the bedroom, and he very calmly said, "No curtains allowed." And I was new to renting, so I thought this was like a normal thing. He meant it, so I wasn't allowed to put any curtains on the big sliding windows. And at night, I used to hoist bed sheets over the pelmet, over the windows to keep the light out. There was a neighbor whom I think my landlord had tasked with keeping an eye on me. So she was a 60-year-old lady and she would look through the keyhole often. And I once caught her at it and I flung the door open and she was very calm. She was like, "What can I do for you?" So it's very normal for renters to be at the mercy of landlords and of neighbors. But as a gay person, as an LGBT person, it becomes particularly difficult. Nevertheless, I was happy at that time. I was in my 20s and I was happy to have my freedom, and I would have some guys over at times, and maybe my neighbor saw us through the keyhole and reported it to the landlord. But I once came back to find some of my stuff moved around, and I committed the second cardinal sin of renters after curtains, which was to put my own padlock on the door, separate from the padlock that the landlord had given me. And this was not acceptable, so my landlord very abruptly asked me to vacate the house immediately. I left, and I found the first thing that I could find, and I went to a nearby building where I was co-renting with a 50 something straight alcoholic. He also went through my stuff, and once he very pointedly told me that this nation is being destroyed and this culture is being destroyed. He used the word impotent. He said that the youth of today are all becoming impotent, which was probably how he processed my queerness. So I experienced some difficulties renting firsthand, and by this time the internet had come to India, and different gay men were meeting over the internet, and then we were meeting in real life as well. We were also meeting in parks and on train stations, etc. So it was a mix of the physical and the internet. But one thing that was coming out in common from so many gay men was that they had come to Mumbai, which is a big city in India, to live a free gay life and to have economic opportunity. So while the economic part of it was handled, the gay part or the LGBT part wasn't, because what would typically happen is that they would co-rent with straight roommates who would often be very homophobic. So they'd come all the way to Mumbai from a small town, and then now they were completely back in the closet, sometimes even more than they were from where they came. Many people experienced problems in housing a lot more serious than mine. I've heard stories of physical abuse, harassment, verbal, mental harassment. There have been stories of so many people who've just been thrown out by the landlord without a moment's notice. And what I realized is that we as queer people need to come together. And this was long before the age of aggregators like Ola and Uber and everything. But I didn't know what to call it. But I thought that if we could rent a place together, we could at least create an oasis of safety and of calm and of certainty and of support and love. So that was my idea in starting G.H.A.R. So what if a bunch of queer people came together and they started renting? They would support each other, they would understand each other. So if you brought your boyfriend or girlfriend home, that would be fine, and you could bring friends over. You didn't have to censor yourself, or speak in a certain octave and not laugh in a high voice or whatever it is. There are so many ways in which we censor ourselves. So that was my idea in starting G.H.A.R. So G.H.A.R actually followed the way the internet evolved. So it was first on e-groups, which was a list serve. Then it was on Yahoo Groups, and then it's been on Facebook since 2012. Today it's got over 19,000 members. It's one of the largest Facebook groups in India, and over 1,200 postings from over 100 cities in India every year. There are literally hundreds of people who found such safe queer housing by way of G.H.A.R. What I've noticed happens is that because housing is the ground zero of a person's existence, which is like the most intimate place where a person lives their own essence. So when you have a safe and affirming space where you live, you can form friends, you can form relationships, you get confidence, you're able to do better in your professional life at college. And then I feel that LGBT people also then feel empowered to think about, okay, now I'm kind of sorted. How do I contribute to the community? How do I help? How do I organize? I think safe housing makes the life experience not only of the individual, but also of the entire community a lot more meaningful and a lot more rich. So that's my story, and that's the story of G.H.A.R. Thank you for listening.
This is the very first time the Leyton Award has gone to a person or group outside of the United States. But it's fitting that in a year in which the entire globe has been gripped by pandemic fear and loss, we are reminded that we are united by something greater, which is hope and love. Sachin, I know you're probably not listening right now because I think it's about 4 a.m. in India, but here is your award presented by Emily. It's gorgeous.
It says, Houses on the Moon Theater Company presents the Leyton Award 2020 to Sachin, Jain, and G.H.A.R for championing the unheard voice. And Sachin, I'm deeply honored, moved by your story. You're not with us right now, but I know when you'll be watching this, just please know that we love you and we thank you. And can't wait to see you when you come to New York to get this award in person.
Sachin asked us to hold on to the award because he wants to come see us one day when travel is possible. And Sachin, we are happy to send you the modest sum of $1,000 US to support the life-saving work that you do with G.H.A.R.
And one thing that's special about being virtual right now is that people that may not necessarily be able to join us are in fact with us, perhaps. And I think that we have some of Mauricio's family here, his beautiful sisters, Miriam and Galia. If you're here, welcome. And I know that you share this joy with us in presenting this award every year. So thank you. And thanks, Jeff. Nice to see you. And now we will please welcome back, briefly, Juancho Herrera.
My name is Brenda Curran, and I am an actor who really enjoys being in on the inception of a piece. The developmental process is right up my alley. I would describe my relationship with the Houses on the Moon Theater Company as a straight-out love affair. In fact, I'm here talking to you right now as an early celebrant of House's soon-to-be 20th anniversary. I began my participation as a storyteller with the Houses on the Moon production of Gun Country, stories of those whose lives have been impacted by gun violence. I began in a room with diverse individuals. I sat on the floor and listened as each one, including me, told their story of a gun. I remember the first person was a high school principal who could barely hold it together as he told the story of his beloved nephew being murdered. A beautiful young woman, was only 5 years old. She remembers being in the living room with her mother when a bullet comes in through the window, hits her mother and kills her. It was a kid outside, didn't mean to, but he had a gun. A cop and a veteran of war. No matter how much he'd seen, his most painful memory was hanging out in the Bronx when one day a kid who'd gotten hold of a shiny object, a handgun, accidentally blew the head off of another kid. The cop's sister remembers she associated jumping rope with bullets flying. She had even witnessed a murder as a kid, but for her, it was an everyday thing. Another young man who was clearly still recovering from bullet wounds he'd incurred 2 years earlier as an innocent bystander from a shootout in Manhattan. Being wounded, one can self-isolate. It's lonely. But another energy took over for us in that room. Over the weeks and months, as Emily and Jeff helped us shape our stories, edit, sharpen our narratives, what emerged was an order. Who would begin, who would finish, the sequence in between. But another order emerged, that we were no longer a collection of individuals, but an ensemble of those who knew each other's stories, who heard each other's stories. We had our debut, what began a 6-year journey of other venues. We would gather again when there was another venue, a hospital, a university, a college, a short theatrical run. We would be invited by organizations who were concerned with the gun crisis in this country. There was always a riveting talkback, which would often emerge, spill over into a one-on-one conversation. And over time, there were, of course, more stories, unfortunately, more tellers of their stories. And we would develop a repertoire of stories and storytellers. But whatever lineup there was, we were a community of listeners. We all sat on stage as each other told our story. We became the hearers of one another as one by one spoke out loud our story of guns and the outsized, sometimes insane role they play in this lonely land. Thank you, Houses on the Moon. Happy anniversary, Houses on the Moon. Thank you for not just maintaining the status quo during this pandemic, but boldly launching new projects, expanding. So grateful to be a part of you.
During our Gun Country creative storytelling workshops, which Brenda just spoke so beautifully about, we found ourselves moved and inspired by a friendship that developed between two of the participants, a man who had served 17 years in prison after being charged with manslaughter as a teenager, and a mother whose son had been killed by gun violence as a teen himself. These two individuals found that they each had something that the other person needed. And after Gun Country premiered, we continued on together, exploring creatively, and eventually commissioned Camilo Almonacid to write a play that was based on that particular relationship. This play was called The Assignment, and it premiered in the spring of 2017 at the Art New York theaters.
Mr. Torres.
Oh, but I'm not done.
Oh, well, okay, what would you like to add?
I'm a Scorpio. I'm 39 years old. Yes, 39 years old, a lot older than most of you in here. Maybe not you, Professor, but the others. I'm definitely older than you. Anyway, my name is Julian J. Torres. That's the name my mother chose for me. God bless her soul.
Okay, thank you for your...
In conclusion, before I give the podium over, I think it's crucial that I share with you something about myself. It's hard to say this and admit this in public. Some of you might jump to conclusion and think that I might be afflicted by some abhorrent abomination, which I could be. But I just thought that you should all know that I'm a mama's boy. Yeah, yo, you heard me. Yo, I love my mama. Gloria Mal Torres. Word up. If anybody want to compete now, I'll open up the floor for discussion.
Oh, well,
anybody.
Mr. Torres, that's not quite how I structured this assignment. There is no Q&A.
Oh, somebody might have a question.
Well, I will handle all the questions, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Whatever you say.
I have a question.
Okay.
About your tattoo.
Yes.
Did you pay for somebody to do that?
Yes, of course I paid. If somebody offers you a free tattoo, I'll be skeptical about their abilities.
Did they sanitize the needle?
Yes, very sanitized.
Did you watch them sanitize the needle?
No, but everything turned out okay.
Well, if I am paying somebody to torture me, I would want to make sure that the needle carried no deadly viral infection.
Right, but everything turned out okay. I still have my arm. Anybody else?
Oh, wait. Now, what would your mother have thought about all that?
Oh, my mother had a tattoo. Right here, on her right shoulder. She had a crucifix with a ribbon and her father's name inside of it. Wilfredo Torres. She honored him.
Well, there's lots of ways to honor someone's life.
True, but me having my mom's name right here just represents where I come from. What makes me, me. Now, I think we should let other people participate in the discussion. Anybody else in the back?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Torres. Why don't you have a seat? We have a lot to cover today. Okay, class, if you will all take out your manuals, we will have a brief discussion based on Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Birthmark.
I have another tattoo on my back. It took about 6 hours to finish. You sure you don't want to see it?
We've seen enough. Have a seat.
How did I do?
You did just fine. Okay, class. So, what do you think the narrator was alluding to when he said crimson stain upon the skin?
I believe what Hawthorne was describing was the character Georgiana's birthmark, which to me was like a beautiful freckle. But Albert, Georgiana's husband, a man of science and philosophy, whose only concern is with perfection, couldn't see that all living things are flawed. and that our flaws actually make us more beautiful. So in this case, it's just a white girl with a red mark, a crimson stain upon the snow.
Okay.
Hi, hello, welcome. Thank you so much again for joining us this evening. We truly appreciate it. My name is Ian Eaton. I have to pause between my first and last name, otherwise it just sounds like I'm repeating myself. I'm an actor and a writer, and I've been working with houses since 2005. I am excited to speak to you tonight about The Architects, one of our newest programs. Now, The Architects is what we call our creators group. It's a handful of representative artists that are committed to the future of the company in terms of creating new work that is in line with our mission of amplifying the unheard voice. We are a ragtag bunch of actors, writers, directors, teachers, social workers, and all around creative developers. Now, we started working together on new ideas a couple of years ago, but when the pandemic hit, we stepped it into full gear, and we've been meeting weekly to brainstorm, share, research, write, improvise with new forms, and most importantly, vent and create our own safe space to talk about the current issues that are collectively weighing on our hearts. We've been exploring themes of race, racism, culture clashes, the physical virus, the political virus, technology, and more. And we've been experimenting with working as an ensemble and learning from one another. We are going to share a short video with you now to give you an idea of what we've been doing, but mostly as a teaser. If you like what you see, we'll be back sharing some more so you can see what we've got in development next month on November 12th for a special architect event, Q-Echo Architect event. That's November 12th. Hope you can make it and hope you enjoy.
Here's a picture of my kids.
Like, they're so cute.
Here's a picture of a beautiful scene from our vacation.
Oh, I wish I was there. Here's my new puppy. Here's a picture of my father from when I was a kid. He will be missed.
Sad. I'm devastated. He's so proud of you. Here is an article that expresses something I think is probably correct and everybody should consider.
Here's an article that presents a different point of view.
I wasn't trying to start anything, just food for thought.
Totally. These are my thoughts that are different than yours.
Agree to disagree. More kids, bigger kids.
Like more awards, bigger awards.
Happy birthday!
Here is an article that I think demonstrates what is most important about the world right now, and we should all be talking about it.
Is that article true?
It is.
Well, there's a lot of things that are not true right now.
That is the point of the article.
Well, I think it's bias.
Hello? We are all biased, but I believe that I am less so.
This thing that happened in history proves that you're wrong.
That thing that happened in history is still happening today.
Ring, ring, ring.
Here's a picture of us in Paris.
Like.
Here's why you're wrong.
Here's why you're immoral.
Here's why you're a fascist.
Here's why you're a socialist.
Do you even know what a socialist is?
Here's why I'm not afraid.
Here's the science.
Here's to my God.
Here's the justice.
Here's the freedom.
Here is the peace.
Here's my peace.
I'm not a traitor.
I'm not a bad person.
I'm not a snowflake.
I'm not a racist.
I'm not a Nazi.
Nazi. You're a Nazi. I'm not a Nazi. You're a Nazi. Dislike.
Dislike.
This is what the Bible says.
Who wrote the Bible? This is what the media says.
Who runs the media?
Critical thinking. People. A quote that proves my point?
Politically correct.
If you weren't white.
You weren't a spoiled rich kid.
We weren't that rich.
You were richer than us.
Middle class.
You had a pool.
Oh, you're judgmental.
You're a hypocrite.
You don't care about anybody but yourself and your family.
You don't give a shit about your family.
You never came to visit me at the hospital.
You didn't invite me to your engagement party.
Are you ashamed of me?
Do I embarrass you?
You have that flag.
You have that tattoo.
You want to drown dolphins in oil.
You want to murder fetuses.
Hate.
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 Hate. Hate.
You have a sixth toe!
You have a foot fetish!
You're a high-functioning alcoholic with no purpose.
You are a low-functioning writer with no publisher.
Your husband's a misogynist and a corporate thief.
And your brother's a drug addict.
You fucked my brother.
You fucked my boyfriend!
Go fuck yourself.
Unfriend.
Delete.
Deactivate account.
Block.
Delete. Permanently.
Is that you?
That you?
Is that you?
It's me.
Is that
you? That you?
It is.
It is.
Yes.
Dear Houses on the Moon friends, thank you so much for attending our 2020 gala. My name is Jenny Paredes and I'm a member of the board of directors of Houses on the Moon. Today, I would like to share with you one of the many reasons why I have been supporting Houses for the last 5 years. I'm a scientist and an educator who believes in the power of art of bringing people together. I believe Houses on the Moon is a very welcoming and inclusive company that embraces the stories that reflect the rich diversity of this country. As an immigrant from Colombia, seeing the wonderful work that Emily and the other theater company members have developed for the last 20 years has allowed me to learn from other cultures and to also see my own represented. We need your help. Please help us not just to generate great art, but also to train the next generation of students of color, to empower them by allowing them to express their creativity. Thank you so much for making the next 20 years of Houses on the Moon possible. Please make a donation today and enjoy the party. Bye!
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you, Jenny. Well, this brings us to the end of our program for this evening. We hope you enjoyed this program as much as we did. Before we go, we wanted to take a moment to thank a few people who made tonight happen. First, always our artists, our staff, our board, and our new advisory board. Thank you always. A special thanks to the folks who worked so hard on tonight's celebration: Juancho Herrera, Dylan Marie Parent, Camilo Amonasid, and everyone else who participated tonight: Jeff, Jenny, Ian, and the generous artists that you heard from. Thank you. A big, big thanks to the people who have worked and continue to work tirelessly for Houses on the Moon: Susan Goodwillie, Emily Cordis, Brian Dratch and Kristen Rathbun, and all the folks at Spotco: Philip Karuba, Richard Hillman, Kelly Claus, Sarah Benvenuti. Thank you. Doesn't even cut it. We are so lucky. And to all our supporters, Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you for your generosity, especially during these times of uncertainty. And finally, our sponsors for this evening, Ruth Sawader, Larry and Beth Lenke, David Lyons, Jane Dubin, and Queens College. Big thanks. We are in the midst of an ambitious and critical fundraising campaign. If you are able, please donate to Houses on the Moon. Again, you can donate by clicking the link in the description box below, or visit our website, housesonthemoon.org. Before we go, we wanted to tell you about a couple of new and exciting programs. First, in case you missed it, we released the pilot episode of our first ever podcast. If you're interested in listening to it, you can visit our website. A link to the pilot episode is right there on the front page. And we'll have much more exciting news to share about the future of our podcast in the coming months.
The pilot features Ian Eaton, who you heard from tonight as one of the architects, but it's his own story from Gun Country. So if you haven't heard it yet, please check it out. It's absolutely worth listening to. And Jeffrey Solomon is your host with the most.
So you can't go wrong there. So yes, again, it's on the thanks, Sybil. Yeah, it's on the front page of the website. So please go check it out.
And I'll just close by saying that it was really exciting tonight. Tonight was beautiful. It's most beautiful because you're all here with us. And although we can't be in person, this is, the next best thing. And I feel the energy and I feel the love. I hope you do too. And it was exciting though for me, as artistic director, to see this architect video tonight. It's the first time we're showing it, the video that you just saw a couple minutes ago that Ian introduced, because we're just making things. This is all happening kind of fast. And as Ian mentioned, if you are interested in seeing more of the work that we are in process with, we're going to have a whole evening devoted to it. Well, it'll be an hour or less, because we understand how precious Zoom time is. But November 12th, we'll be sharing more work that's being created with our artistry group with you. So please join us if you can. Put that date down in your calendar. November 12th, it's another Thursday evening. It'll be 6 o'clock. And the last thing I want to say is that we've always been focused on making sure that we support artists. It's been part of the core values of this company since the day that Jeff and I decided we were going to become a company. So that has never wavered. But we are more focused than ever right now in terms of these new programs that we're making. And we need to share them with people. We want to share the stories, and we need to support our incredible family of artists and beyond that need to be heard and seen. So thank you so much again for all that you already are doing. I hope to see you all soon. I'm sending you all love. And Kevin, unless there's anything else from you, I will ask Juancho Herrera to please bring us home. Thank you, Juancho.
Thank you.